Hey everybody, welcome back to Stormbreaker Films. This is Tom. Today we're doing a quick capsule review of The Hateful Eight, 10 Cloverfield Lane, and The 13th Warrior. Hateful Eight, we talked about this on our great video. I don't know if it's great, but I enjoyed it. The Tarantino's 10th video where we were debating what his 10th and final movie might be. He's always claimed he's going to do 10. He could have stopped at 8 and gone out on top, because I think Hateful Eight is much better than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I thought it was really good. I think it stands with some of the best that he's done, and it's also got a nice potpourri of regulars from all kinds of stuff. From the very beginning, Reservoir Dogs, you've got Michael Madsen and Tim Roth. From as recent as Death Proof, you have Kurt Russell, and then you have from Django Unchained, you got Walton Goggins in there, and Bruce Dern. Hey, BB, you gonna comment on Hateful Eight with me, buddy? My goodness. All right, Mr. BB's here to say hi and bump the camera. So Hateful Eight, it's an intriguing film because there is sort of a chess game going on between Samuel L. Jackson and some of the other characters in there, and it's also wonderfully misleading because there are certainly more than 8 major characters. So that's a nice little piece of misdirection that they included. Yeah, I definitely would recommend checking it out. It reuses some music from The Thing, Ennio Morricone's The Thing score that never made it actually into the movie. So that's worth the price of admission alone. And there's also a weird, like, 7 degrees of separation type thing where Jennifer Jason Leigh stars as the arguably the main villain, and she was co-stars with Bridget Fonda in Single White Female, and Bridget Fonda, of course, was probably the most despicable villain in Jackie Brown. So, and of course, Samuel L. Jackson, I think he had sort of a little bit of a wish fulfillment where he basically is playing old Django. It seems like there's an interesting process of mitosis that occurs with Quentin Tarantino scripts. When you go all the way back to the beginning, when he wrote the screenplay for Natural Born Killers and True Romance, the two of those actually split. So the Mickey and Mallory Knox characters were basically a cellular division version of Patricia Arquette and Christian Slater's characters, and he seems to do this a lot. I would definitely argue in Inglourious Bastards that the SS officer who is in the bar scene in the downstairs bar, that famous shootout scene, that character is Hans Landa in every way except name. He was basically a cut and paste character. And likewise, I kind of got that impression with Samuel L. Jackson's Bounty Hunter. I mean, here you have a post-Civil War, somewhat elderly bounty hunter, whereas Django was a pre-Civil War, rambunctious youth bounty hunter. And so, unfortunately, for cut and paste characters, every time they're cut and pasted, they either get an eye shot out or their balls shot off. So moving on to 10 Cloverfield Lane. This was, talk about mitosis and weird mutations. This was basically the sequel, I guess, to Cloverfield, except not a sequel at all, except sort of. I don't know. This had such a strong whiff of studio involvement, where even down to the way the street address sign was shot, where like a car like knocks a license. BB, you're driving me nuts. Excuse me. The way like the getaway at the end where the car like knocks over the mailbox, and the word 10 Cloverfield Lane, it almost looks like a Hollywood executive went in and filmed that himself. Like it, and the entire not third act, because it has a 3-act structure already, but the entire like epilogue, which spoilers is actually an alien invasion going on completely feels tacked on to what would have been a very passable psychological thriller otherwise. But they, unfortunately, with John Goodman, he has an innate likability to him. He does play good psychopaths like he did in Barton Fink and things like that. But I think they could have made it even more ambiguous if they'd wanted to, whether or not he's good or bad. Because just being a prepper and having a bomb shelter where you can survive an alien onslaught, like that doesn't really make you a bad person. But they really leaned into the idea that he'd abducted women and girls and forced them to live there. And once he murders someone, that it's kind of a Rubicon point where you can't play that interesting game of, is he a villain or is he not? Like once he executes someone outside the parameters of the law, that he's just a straight up murderer. So they played a game. It's almost like Hateful Eight in a weird way, because in Hateful Eight, like what could have been like an intricate chess game really wound up being a game of dodgeball at the end. And same thing with 10 Cloverfield Lane. What could have been a really interesting psychological study wound up being, just the prelude to a dumb War of the Worlds-esque, tentacle monster eating trucks. I don't know. It didn't quite gel. It was a passable piece of entertainment though. And 13th Warrior. So I remember even reading back in the day that this had tremendous problems. I didn't realize that it had cost like $160 million and only made like 60 million. Maybe it's 130 and it only made 30 million. Anyway, it was a bomb. It was one of the worst box office failures. It made Omar Sharif retire, for God's sake. Like, that guy was a workhorse before this, but after that he's like, maybe movies aren't for me. Maybe it's time for old Omar Sharif to hit that dusty road. I'll see you guys. And then he just screeches off in his truck. But so Antonio Banderas plays a Muslim or Arabic guy who is a ambassador to some Nordic folk, and he gets into this weird situation where a vision, a seeress, some sort of oracle, says that he's going to be the 13th warrior to help out their people. And so he's sort of in Dutch with the sheikh or whoever at the time anyway. So he has to go on this mission one way or the other. But he winds up fighting these, I don't know what they are. They're supposed to be, I guess, in the book they were called the Eaters of the Dead. They're arguably Neanderthals, but they have like really high technology armor that's shaped like animal armor. And I don't know. At first I thought maybe they were like exiled Gauls or Romans or something. It's pretty ambiguous who these villains are. It's loosely based on Beowulf, but there's a problem with the movie at its core, and it doesn't feel like a John McTiernan film. I did read that McTiernan, well, he was fired for one thing, and so Michael Crichton, who wrote the book and produced the movie, had to step in to do some reshoots. And it unlike other troubled production movies I've seen, like Waterworld, this one actually you could see the problems on screen a little bit. Like there were a lot of action scenes and transitions that were very muddy and confusing and shot differently and like weird angles. Like it actually did feel like a troubled production on the screen. That's not saying it's the worst film ever. It's in that 2 to 3 star range. Antonio Banderas is generally a good lead. I don't have any problem with him here. He's getting into the Mickey Rooney territory a little bit by playing a Persian or a Muslim, but the culture clash between the Muslim, he's definitely Muslim, because at one point he's telling one of the Norsemen that he's not allowed to have spirits distilled from fruit or grain. And the guy's like, oh, well, don't worry about it then. This is honey. So he gets to enjoy some mead, I guess, that doesn't go against his religion. But, it's got some decent action, there, but it's one of those preposterous stories where, you've got like literally like 13 Norsemen slash one guy with a scimitar, and they're fighting against an army on horseback with armor. And you're just like, why do they stand a chance again? Like, just because we know them as characters? But the best scene in the whole movie for me was he was completely new to their culture, and there's a sort of a montage sequence where he was watching their lips move as they were talking, and they would intersplice within their dialogue, which was not translated, an English word here and there. So it felt like you were learning the language along with him, and that reminded me a lot of the scene in Hunt for Red October, in which it zoomed in on the political officer's mouth on the Red October, where he was speaking Russian, and then as it zoomed out, he's speaking English that's understandable, and then Sean Connery starts speaking English as well. So that sort of transition, or that sort of like play with language, that definitely felt like authentic McTiernan, but a lot of it just felt like, again, a studio executive grabbed a camera and just started filming. So anyway, that's our quick capsule review today. Hope everybody's having a great 2022. We're going to have a boatload, hopefully, of new material for you guys to enjoy this year. So keep an eye on the sky. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye.